I actually have to recognize, like, this is something that's not good about me. There's something good about it that people don't just get me down. But it's also like there's a barrier to that more intimate relationship.
Wait, could you say that, the first part again?
So things don't get me down, like if people won't get me down, so I have like some kind of a shield, but that shield is like, it stops it going from the good stuff too. So there's a protective like barrier, like also like my mom dying when I was a kid, I think played into it big. You learn that to love deeply and then how to experience loss is painful, one of the most painful things, and so you can put up this protective barrier and then avoid the intimacy so that you don't have to experience that pain anymore.
Yeah.
And there's something to it. It's connected to the cheerleading that he talks about, but it's like, yeah, when you there's a way to protect yourself from discomfort and pain.
Yeah, I think that's like the deepest thing, kind of, in a way, or one of them, because like when after the fall, we were talking about that a bit last night too. That was cool. The first thing they're given is the garments of skin, right? These protective things that like set them off, where they feel separate now, like from each other and from God and stuff, and that we need to protect ourselves, and what it is from that intense communion, like with the kind of with reality and with God and with others and stuff. And the way I really like to think about it is with the closed circle. It's like, this is kind of the quote unquote fallen world, like where we think we're in the world of duality and that we're in the closed kind of system, but then actually, the communion with God is also possible, and with others and stuff. And that's kind of this recognizing of a vertical dimension, like instead of just being in a world of dualism, like then it's like you see a transcendent third, and that's how like the circle is opened. And no, it's a bunch of jargon there, but something just that whole idea of like the garments, and then how those can become vessels for who we are, and that we can open. There's also a thing that, like, if you're,
I feel like your drawing is maybe a helpful tool for you, but you have to like somehow translate for each person. Like,
for me,
because when you'll end up, like when a person first looks at it, it's just kind of messy. It's just. Yeah. It might be too much. It's just
too much. It's a lot.
Yeah. When I first looked at it, I was like, I kind of got it immediately, because I drew that one years prior, and it's very similar.
Well, I think the key though is like, so if you somehow receive some kind of revelation or insight, and it's real and true and good, the chances are others won't get it. Right, and so they're like, the love is to be able to take it and know how to share it properly, right?
Yeah.
So that it is a benefit to everyone around you.
Yeah, and that's the thing with psychedelics in general, really, or one of the things about them is that like you can have these visions, but then to be able to integrate it into your daily life and to be able to translate it to people, I think that's kind of what it's all about. Like, if you can't do that, then there's no point in like doing it.
Yeah, it's like I can go, like, there's these, and many of us will have these crazy experiences, and you try to talk about it or share it, and it's almost like you'll get a sense of it. I think Kim was even talking about it. It's like when you're trying to tell your story, it's like it's always a compression of something that's way more, and it's lossy. Like, I've used IT, information technology terms. You're losing quality of the thing whenever you're trying to compress it. But that's communication. It's like unavoidable. But there's so many ways to try and communicate it or to embody it or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that guy who made the Costume Galahad, he wrote an article about this. He talks about compaction and how, like, all...
Compaction sounds like you got a problem in your digestive system. In the IT world, we'll say compression.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
how, lots of information can be compressed into a symbolic image or like a word or a happening or something. And yeah, it's interesting. I wanted to say something about the garments and connecting with others, that vulnerability and stuff. Because it's interesting how with me, I kind of feel like it's almost coming from the other direction with me, where it's like the doors got blown open.
Yeah.
Where it was like I had to start censoring myself. It's like when I don't know, it's like when I see you, I feel like I do see you probably deeper than most, but it's like a lot of people don't like to be seen,
But when you say it, it's kind of like I try to become aware of my mask and persona and my true self and all that, and I'm like, there's no way he sees me.
Yeah.
But I know that it slips out too. Like I don't even know what all slips out, so I know that you do see things that slips through the cracks or whatever.
But part of it is, can I rise to meet those occasions? Because also it's like, if for a while I was like so zapped that it's like every single person I was meeting is just deep, like so much, and I was like, I can't deal with all that, which is kind of like the garments thing, right?
But how much of it is true though? Like, so like when you connect, like is it just that, like is it true or is it?
I would say a lot of it's not what you think, or like I don't know, like people's natural, I don't know, it's like how you're feeling more so,
I got you. So you're not trying to guess what I'm thinking. You're just kind of into like if I'm scared or if I'm nervous or things like that.
Yeah, it's like how you vibe or something. I don't know, but yeah, I was thinking that aspect where it's like sometimes we have to like control how much we are like reduce that kind of intimacy also, because it can be overwhelming in that way, as opposed to like the danger of it, which I can also relate to, but yeah, definitely it makes sense kind of in your situation how it would be, after losing your mom. It's like
it'd be cool to be able to just to drop it and bring it up out like whenever I wanted, or into whatever like strength, like if there is this I know there is like a protective barrier that's even subconscious that I don't control. I get a sense that hanging out with you these last few days that it'll decrease. I'll kind of like so a phrase I like, attitude is caught, not taught, and so I'll kind of catch your energy.
Yeah, I think that's how it works, and that's kind of how the thing is in general. It's like, in order to know you more deeply, I have to kind of put myself in your shoes. I have to like, what is it like to be Gavin right now, and try and like kind of be with you. Like
I am being shaped by the thing above my head.
Yeah, you might be able to scooch forward a bit and put your head back.
Did you want to stick on the garments? I mean,
it's just kind
sounds like it hit some topic there.
Definitely, it's very interesting to me, and like I think our words are also like that. It's like this kind of, I can use my words as like a mask almost to keep people out, but they can also be this thing which really communicates who I really am, and we can connect through that, and just my body movements and stuff, because it's also kind of like words, because the larynx is doing gestures, so it's all kind of language. And but I was thinking, we've talked about the mind reading instrument before a little more. I'm more a fan of the natural kind of natural abilities which we have, and like trying to develop those a lot. But I could also maybe see an instance for what you're saying. The thing is, I guess part of it is that I think sometimes, like, I know I have secrets of my own, but it's like, I know that it's probably not most appropriate for, like, maybe because they implicate other people or something, and I'm respecting their privacy,
Mm-hmm.
And also maybe it's just like, or maybe I'm putting it behind me, or that it's not like relevant to the, I don't know how to describe it. It's like the thing also where sometimes there is an appropriate failing, like as I was describing, there's kind of that idea to see, if you can just see everyone, not to say I was like professional or that I like earned that ability, it's kind of just the acid hit me in that way where that's what I was most thinking about. And but it's a lot, and it's like sometimes it's like, oh man, I should not see that about that person. It's kind of like their thing. It's between them and God, or between them and whoever they're with, you know. But it's very circumstantial. Like maybe in like a political context, I can see it maybe being, you know, it's like you had suggested, like vetting world leaders and such like that. Lord knows, like, there's lots of world leaders that have some pretty dark secrets that might be good to know. But I don't know. It's a tricky one for me.
I think there's a piece of it where we don't even know ourselves. So it would be cool to be able to know ourselves better. And like, I think a lot of people we just lie to ourselves. Like, I know people who, I think it's like we when you do that thing where you're just cutting people off and just thinking highly of your own opinions and ignoring other people's opinions, it's like you don't necessarily know you're doing it when you do it. Like, when you have the protective barrier up, you don't necessarily know that you're wearing these like metaphysical mind clothes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're subconscious. Like that word subconscious is like.
I really like what I don't know if it was your wife or someone else, you had mentioned just a second ago how someone said like what you attend to or something is like or what your objective is or something, it like gets played out. I don't know exactly how you phrase it, but that's how I tend to think, that like ultimately nothing is really hidden. You know, like even though maybe I like a propositional, like what words you're saying I might not get, it's like people can't really hide anything actually, like already. Like if you're keen enough.
If you just hermit and you go and stay by yourself and isolate and don't do anything, I think that works.
That's true. Yeah, but I mean, like if you're.
But as soon as I start opening my mouth
like
or doing any movement, what's that?
I'm not a saint, but imagine that if I were to walk up to a saint, they would see right through me. You know, like Jesus could see people's problems very clearly. You know. And because I think, like, if I'm thinking about, I don't know, it's like if I'm thinking about tomatoes, you might not be able to get that, but that's not really consequential. But if you can see that I'm hungry or something, like maybe, you know, like things like that, I don't know, or like that particular topics, or like, oh yeah, that's what it was, is that how people respond to an idea, you know, like if you say weed, you know, like one person might be like, we got weed, you know, and then another person might be like, oh, look at weed, you know, and so like, I don't know.
But how do you judge it too? Like a saint, say a saint has access to all the information, it was like, what makes them a saint? What do they do with it?
Yeah, that's the thing.
And then how do you know that what's good?
That's a distinction between someone who takes a lot of psychedelics and has the, you know, and then someone who really cultivates that virtue, you know, of like,
I mean, ultimately, I've gotten where I say, I don't know what's good, and then I try to ask, so God, what's good? And then you'll do things where people who are judges will say, oh, that's not a good person, even though you are like, I'm doing God's will. So then that's what's really strange, is like, if you actually do God's will, there'll be plenty of people who think that you're not. Plenty of judges who will look at it and say, you couldn't possibly be doing God's will. So like, ultimately, like, I think the saint is someone who learns how to submit to God. And then it's hard to, how do you know they're a saint? It's like, and it might even be impossible. Like, how exactly do you spot them and know them?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like unnamed saints, you know, like lots of people who are saintly but not like recognized in that regard, you know, like and yeah, I think a key thing there is also that, like in Islam, that's a big thing. It's just submitting.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know, but I think some of it is also that like that same eye by which I see God is the eye by which God sees me, or something, and it's like this thing where we are also God, which is a hard one to, you know, but it's like, so for me to follow God's will, it's like, Aleister Crowley, which is a sketchy magician dude, that talks about like the true will.
You know, you just said his name, and one thing he said is like, those who see me holy call me Crowley, and those who see me foully call me Crowley. And you just called him Crowley.
Like, the true will to do, like, I think submitting to God is like submitting to your deepest, who you really are, and like what you're actually kind of, what your conscience, you know, because that's the thing, is like the conscience is different for every person.
Well, there's like, I mean, you got to integrate it. You got to integrate who you really are. That's what I hear when you say submit to who you really are.
Leave.
The thing is the world doesn't necessarily like who I really am. That's what I found. Even at like 5 years old, I was like on a playground being who I really was, and then just getting in trouble, you know, and not even really doing anything wrong. It should have been, in my mind, that I was 5 years old and adults were saying, oh, here's someone who actually knows something. He's 5-year-old, but getting treated like a kid who knows nothing. Often throughout childhood. Like the world, that was my experience in the world, is just basically say, sit down, shut up, you don't know shit, you know.
Yeah.
Over and over and over and over.
Yeah, I got a lot of, shut up, you being annoying,
I got my butt whooped. I got kicked out of classes and schools. I got threatened with kicked out of school. I drew a swastika on George Washington's forehead in third grade. I saw a picture. I'd seen a book with George Washington with a swastika on his head. And then I ended up receiving
this one's missing the swastika.
Right. I'm like, it's a cool symbol. And then all of a sudden my third grade teacher, you know, African American woman, her husband like serving in the army in Germany, and she starts thinking that my family's a bunch of Nazis or something.
Which is ridiculous.
I also called her out because she said deer couldn't swim, and I got so frustrated.
You don't know about deer.
I said, she's lying to you. I told the whole class, she's telling a lie. Don't believe her. She's not a real teacher. She's trying to trick you. I've seen him lying. I've seen him swim. I got the papers.
I think I was in second
I got the
grade,
documents.
and I drew bullet holes on Abraham Lincoln and George Washington's heads for President's Day or something, and got in trouble.
But I mean, it's like part of it though is real. Like we're in a world with kind of like a whole bunch of people who are kind of like NPCs, and that's what I started seeing at 5 years old. I started seeing, it's like, I'm in a world full of, I say all that, and I have my own radar of my own pride and arrogance and the accuser and the Satan. Like, I can feel it. Like I told you last night about, I could call it out and say, oh, the accuser just entered the room. Like, there's a right place for the accuser. I think Christianity gets it wrong because they think the accuser has to be like destroyed and is like completely evil and has no place, whereas like in Judaism, like God created the accuser too.
That's how I think about this one. You know, nothing would exist unless, like, if God is being, existence itself, then it's like nothing exists unless God gives it being, unless it's in a relationship with God, so, or something like that. So I don't know. Yeah,
I get it. Like it's if God didn't have a use for me, I could die right now. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
it's like God could take me out right now. It'd look bad for you guys. Hopefully, God, I don't think God will do that to you guys. If all the, like, my wife would think something terrible happened to them.
Yeah. So.
That's why I actually think, like, in the commune idea, like, I love the idea of transparency. It's just bumping up into this NPC thing where you've got just terrible judges in the world. Like, we don't actually care about having some type of competence hierarchy with regard to judging and justice. It's like we don't value a competence hierarchy with regard to judgment and judging. Like, and you can see it, like, the power of the word is so powerful, but we give idiots megaphones, you know. I would say people who they're like NPCs. Like, you can meet them where they're at. You could love them. You don't have to say they're like evil, but you could see that they're being controlled by some kind of evil spirit that they don't even know about. I point back at Shai LaBeouf. It's like, you've got these things that are you're in your blind spots because you've got these mental protective barriers that are in some ways for your own good.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, that the protective barriers are also for our own good to some extent, I think. You know, is that I was definitely big on the transparency thing too. Like when we were first talking about all this, I was like, we just have to see everything and, you know, be real all the time and stuff. But there's a clip on my channel called Apokalypsis and Openness, where
What does apocalypsis mean?
it's where we get apocalypse, and it basically means like the veil falling away. So it's like in this context, it's like transparency is like a removal of the veil. And they were basically, you know, OG Rose, that channel? OG Rose with Daniel and Michelle.
I think I've seen it like once.
Gotcha. It's so there are a couple, and they were basically critiquing transparency, and I really liked what they said.
God wants to be in a relationship with you, but if he is, you might die. So how do you do that? Well, it has to be a story of unveiling, a process of unveiling, and it's not easy. And simply to say God needs to be transparent, well, then you'll die. And it's actually no different with human beings. We cannot be transparent to one another. One, because we hardly know ourselves. We're divided selves. All we can do is open up our processes. And that's quite a thing. And if we're going to do that, we need to be able to handle it and do it wisely. And then it needs to be with people who are able to enter that process. The unveiling happens in the process of dialogos. But here's the problem: if you don't have dialogos, well, then you can't do that, and so it becomes a mess.
I was thinking about this example of, I don't know why it's coming to mind suddenly, but I was thinking about being way back in like middle school and in youth group, and I had somebody I knew at youth group who was clearly going through some things, or their family was going through some things, but I never knew what was going on. And I remember feeling, well, there's a twofold thing here. One, this person was not, how do I put this? They were participating in maybe what is a potential extreme fault or ditch on the side of the introversion.
Sure.
Where sometimes you don't use words and you don't talk about it, but your body language is like, oh my gosh, something's wrong. Like they're just upset, they're not talking at all, they're not being responsive, they're not really being, like, they just look sad.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's really hard to make them laugh or whatever it is, you know, blah, blah, blah. This is back in middle school.
Sure.
But, so, in a way, they wouldn't tell, like, they seemed very selective about who they might possibly open up to. And there was this kind of, and definitely at that point in being a middle schooler, I'd be like, why doesn't she tell me? You know, why won't she talk to me? And I don't understand. And, you know, but she was also kind of going around making sure you knew something in a sense. I'm not sure. Maybe she wasn't. I'm sure it was just a hard situation. And then, you know, she maybe didn't have much thought behind the fact that, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't, like, go around to these things feeling like looking as if I'm sad, but not
Jesus
telling
speaks about that.
what I'm going through.
I mean, Jesus speaks about that. If you're fasting, don't go declaring, like, hide things. Like, Jesus, well, this is...
Hiding, but hiding isn't merely not talking about it.
Yeah, your body...
You also have to, like, you actually
act
have to
like,
which seems like you're pretending or something.
Yes.
But that's where we talk about also the pretending as something that can actually be a cultivation kind of.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, if you're going to be kind of selective or not share what is going on in your world because it might be too difficult, it's not the right timing, blah 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 blah. You shouldn't also use it though as a weapon.
Yes.
It can be. I'm not saying this person did this. Honestly, like, I totally understand. It was probably a very difficult situation, and I don't understand. It was middle school.
Yes.
But you also don't want to use the silence.
Correct.
Like it's speaking, because this person was
that's still transparency. Actually,
this person was speaking. Exactly, it's a type of transparency of oh my gosh, their body language is talking so loudly,
Yeah.
and yet they're not saying anything except to maybe this one person who they seem to confide in, but now that's a secret, and all these sort of weird, strange, probably middle school dynamics.
Well, you see that happen in
but-
couples. I mean, where there's, I'm not, the man, notably, can keep silent, but it's obvious in how they act and their tone and their way of speaking. They're not actually veiling. They're actually very transparent
Exactly.
that they're pissed off. Like, transparency is
Women
not
do this
just,
too. I mean, it's like the silent treatment.
yeah,
right? This is
like,
the concept
transparency
of
is not simply a matter of speaking.
exactly. It's literally like a mode of how you exhibit, a mode of how you, again, like we said, handle in the quiet, in the solitude. How do you wrestle with that stuff so that when you present yourself to others, you're not going to put it on them, unless you decide I discern that it's wise for me to bring this to this person
Yes.
for counsel or for
Yes,
whatever.
yes. It's not merely about speaking.
Yeah.
You can't be going around looking angry or upset and then say, well, I'm bearing this, for different things, because you're maybe to some degree. And there is something to say about having an incredibly stressful day at work, and basically just, even if you wanted as hard as you could not to show the stress, it's just going to be in your eyes.
face.
It's going to be on your
eyes.
face.
They were talking about how, like, maybe a better way of framing it is as appropriate veiling and unveiling. Is that, and sometimes, like with a kid, like you have to kind of put up a veil to, like, maybe what you're feeling. Like if you're really annoyed with a kid, like, you can't just be like, I'm annoyed with you, and also, like, if you're teaching them something, sometimes you have to.
But it'd be cool to actually name the veil. So like with my kids, I'll say there's a veil. I don't call it veil, but I say there's something I know. Like I say, they were calling each other hoes one day, and like a garden hoe. And I'm like, guys, you really don't want to be calling anybody hoes. And it's like, why? And I said, I'll tell you about it once you get into puberty. You just got to trust me. And so this is it's pointing at the fact that there's a veil. There's something you don't know that I know. You got to trust me. But I plan on telling you about it when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't like the veils that are like they're called unknown unknowns. I like known unknowns. I prefer known unknowns. Like, hey, there's an unknown here that we can point at. It's behind a curtain. I've thought about this with terms of like nuclear weapons, nuclear codes, and stuff like that. It's like, if they exist, how would you deal with this wanting transparency? And it's like, well, you could have a way to prove that you were doing the protocol after the fact. You leave, maybe there's a temporal delay so that you say 1 month ago the codes were here and this is and this was what was happening. We're not going to give you like a live feed of where the codes are and what they are, but we'll give you a 1 month delay to prove that we're doing it with a protocol that's same. So it's a known unknown at that point. Anyways, I get fed up with unknown unknowns.
That's very interesting.
Chad likes mystery, but sometimes I'm like, fuck the mystery. I don't
No,
want
we
mystery.
gotta have some mystery, That's the thing. We'll never be able to totally know. Like, even if we had cameras everywhere and, sensors everywhere, we wouldn't be able to know exactly,
But when people say they like mystery, it's like, sometimes I feel like, it's like, but you're not even interested in the possible explanations of the mystery. Like, I just want mystery. I don't even want to hear any possible explanations.
I don't like that.
But I mean, maybe they got a point, but it's like, I don't like that. But maybe they need that mystery without they don't even want to hear a possible explanation.
Like the veil of nature, like the feminine nature is this infinitely veiled feminine aspect of things. The black shining void. It's like that the mystery, God is, we'll never totally know God, right? It's like God will always be kind of beyond our complete comprehension, just like a cell in the brain can never know like what the whole brain is thinking, but we can increasingly get closer to knowing. It's kind of like with the campfire too, right? It's like when you build a campfire, the bigger you build it, the more darkness is illuminated. Like the mystery, you can be initiated into the mystery, but that doesn't mean it doesn't mean the mystery is no more. It means like you're coming closer to knowing it, and something like that. Like with you, I'll never totally know who you are, but I can come to know you more deeply over time.
If you knew exactly who I was, you would be me.
Mm-hmm. And if I had you in a box, it's like I totally know Gavin, then then there's no relationship anymore, you know?
Well, what's interesting is there might be things that you can know about me that I don't know about me. That's when it gets interesting. It's like, in being me, I have blind spots that are a part of who I am. It might even be like unavoidable, right? There's just it's part of being human. And then we were made, this is why we were made to be part of a community, is that there's some things that there's some things that other people will be able to see that I can't see, and about me that are important and relevant.
Definitely.
All right, let me do a quick summary of the request for commentary on Luke Thompson's video where he asked the question, is this little corner of the internet demonic? Quick summary, yes, it is demonic. However, one of the least demonic places on the internet, one of the least demonic communities on the internet, however still demonic, and how could it be better? I think there's many ways it could be better. I would like to see, personally, I would like to see happily married couples who have raised children whose the children would say, my mom and dad were great. So there was a good family there, that there would be, those people would entertain and begin discussions about selling off their property and combining wealth with others who are similar in order to create new communities on the ground. That's the topic I would want to happen more often, more frequently, and that's the topic I would like to get amplified up, all the way up to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan helped create this little corner of the internet through Jordan Peterson, Paul Vanderklay, Jonathan Pajot, John Vervaeke, and then and so it'd be nice if what could come back up out of it is community, and not just the least demonic internet community, but also the least demonic community on the ground. So that's my take. And it'd be cool if there was the trust earning stuff. It's like, okay, you say you see something about me, maybe you do. Let's run an experiment. Aha, you're right. So maybe next time we'll do this again. And maybe this is my relationship with God. It's like slowly, it's like God earns trust. But I think humans can do that too.
Yeah, that's a super deep one. Our ability to like trust God, like to turn and face. Because like when it comes to like forgiveness and stuff, it's like this thing where it's like God already is there for you or something, but we don't trust that God is working in our favor. Sometimes like we think, oh, reality's out to get me, but then if we take a minute, we're like, we can be reminded, it's like, no, reality's kind of holding me up, I'm still here, you know, like and that thing of turning and facing and allowing that kind of refining fire love to come down.
I think that there's some serious questions that like maybe every person can ask themselves, and it's like, do I really want to submit to God? Because like I think when you actually get to a point in life where you get serious about that question, it's kind of there should be a part of you, I think, and it happened to me, that says it's kind of scary. Like, do you really want to like give yourself over to anyone?
Might mean being crucified.
Yeah, you might get tortured to death. Like, do you really want? Are you cool with that? Like, so if you so that, like, to me, that's kind of like the decision in Christianity. Is like sometimes gets glossed over in these evangelical churches where they say, raise your hand and accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior. And it's like those words point at some potential thing that's really deep, like what I'm trying to point at, where it's like, are you prepared to be crucified, bitch? Yeah, you know. Like that's and like it'd be funny if the pastor actually said, who's ready to get crucified for our God? You know, who's ready to go get a beat down for our God or whatever? and that's like a more serious question.
Yeah.
And you might find it's like, no, God doesn't have that in his plans for you.
Yeah.
And even if he did, he would prepare you for it first so that you're ready and that you agreed to it. Like, he's not going to force it on you.
Yeah. I would also say that it's kind of analogous in all situations. It's like, you know, to really live out that Christian path, like even in a family like your case, like you are kind of crucified every day for your children, you know, like your personal wishes and stuff. It's like you're laying down your life for them, and it's kind of analogous, right? Super cool.
But I do have the power to put my foot down. I try to remind them that this capacity to be firm, confident, tough, no fear. Makes me wonder if I can do it with you guys. It's like a raw honesty that's honest, an honest judge about myself as well, where I'm not just like pumping myself up with a delusion either.
And I like the whole point about that sometimes other people can see better, you know, we have to be able to, like, in our first video, that's what the topic, or the second one with Chris from the Shared Story who made this, he was talking about how, like, the shadow, like, you know, like the ability to tell other people that they're messing up, and like, you know, that true friendship is being able to point out these shadow qualities which we don't see that are affecting the way we move in the world and stuff. And yeah, you know, I think that's, yeah, to be able to build those trusting relationships where you can know that it's coming from a good place, you know.
There's was it Peterson talking to Piers Morgan? He said, like, the best, like a kind of prayer where you pray to have something shown to you about yourself that would be better for you and everyone around you in the world, and you'll know it when it happens because it'll be something you just don't want to look at. You'll be shown the thing you don't want to look at.
Yeah.
And the thing I did to Kim is I basically, with my words, just like, and say, no, you're going to look at this nasty thing. You're going to look at this thing. You can't keep ignoring the nasty thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll even
Sometimes
talk about the
you gotta do
nasty
it, yeah.
thing in me, you know.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to.
But it's so uncomfortable to have some stubborn person being a mean asshole saying, here's the ugly thing. You want to change the subject.
But
and
it's also love, you know. It's not. It's like a. Yeah, it's maybe it's mean in a sense, but it's also like.
It's a way to lose the followers and subscribers.
I'm reminded of.
Here's an ugly thing, guys.
Jesus,
Do you want to feel bad? Yeah. Let me point at this ugly thing so that you feel bad, and you can go off and scroll.
Well, yeah, I'm reminded of Jesus. Honestly, it's so like he walks in the room and everyone's like, "No, stop reminding me about my potential." You know, stop reminding me of what I'm capable of. You know.
I can tell you, it's not fun to be that person. Just like. No, we gotta look at it. It's ugly. You're not gonna like it. I'm not gonna let you avoid it, and we'll try to wiggle out of it. It's like it was a spiritual wrestling when you get into it.
Mm-hmm.
As you guys rough it, and I gave you a fan, and the air conditioning doesn't work
thank
great.
you again for the fan. Very
But
cool.
you guys are making sacrifices. It's hard for me to encourage people to do that. It's hard for me to encourage the wife and kids to do it.
One angle you might be able to take is like the beauty of the vision, and like kind of to be called by a compelling future, as it were, you know, like as opposed to thinking about the things you would have to let go. If you think about the good things that might come of it, then like they might be like, oh yeah, these things I don't care.
Well, the scary part, I think, is one of the big scary parts is social anxiety, right? So you guys are strangers on the internet, right? In front of, like, this is how you will be seen by a lot of people, and my kids know you as Gavin's friends, Daddy's friends, right? But you know, I think that's a big part of it, and collaborating and doing community is how do you earn trust with each other over time. And I think things like this help, like what we've done. I think that helps.
Yeah.
Kim has gotten to know you guys better. My family got to know
Yeah,
you,
I'm
y'all
so
got
glad.
to know us better. And it's like it's these kinds of things that could allow for the earning and gaining of trust over time.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with all kinds of weird things I agree, like being able to talk about a vision, but how do you get there? I think there's people working through traumas and personal issues, and it's happening. I don't think any of us are perfect. We're all.
Some of it could also be like, this is a hard angle to push, but like something about how we do kind of have a responsibility to like do stuff like this. Like it's needed at our time, like we need, and like that we need community. Like that's one thing where like your wife might really resonate with that. Like that we like the goodness of hanging out with people, and that like you said you get some of that now, but to live in a context where you're really kind of living with people, like you would hopefully still have separate spaces to some degree, but like where there are group meals like regularly and stuff, like some of that's really beautiful,
Meeting with friends and family regularly.
Yeah, that's like, what we need.
It is what we need, but I don't think people agree that that's what we need.
Yeah.
Like, and it's hard to pitch it. It's kind of like the thing that people can be blind to. Like, we can be blind to, like, the thing that would be good for us, right? Mm-hmm. It's hard to pitch that vision, to talk about it will cause feelings to get hurt, like, including your own or anyone you talk to. Like,
maybe some of it is like some of it could be like trusting that she would care about you as well. Like if it's really important to you, like, Kim, I'm really wanting to be more embedded in community, like, or something like that, then like maybe she would be like, oh yeah,
she knows that.
Yeah.
She does know that. And then she's a planner, and so she wants it to be predictable. So she wants to have a plan. She wants to be able to kind of know what to expect. And so that's hard because it's better. To me, it's a lot easier when you're flexible, but there's a good side of being a planner and a bad side of being a planner. And also there's a good and a bad side of being flexible, right? So there's kind of has to be a marriage of those things too for me and her, right?
Yeah.
But she definitely wants to support me. It's just trying to. Marriage is was opponent processing. That's what I've heard Joseph. He likes to use Vervaeke's words for that. And when it's done well, you're better for it. But there has to be a give and take. So my flexibility with Kim's planning has to be married together properly. And so then if I'm participating in community, there is an imposition of us as potential members of community as well, right? And everything that comes with it.
I don't know. I think that she might come around to that type of thing,
The way I look at this stuff is like, it is a patient thing that can take where we know each other for the rest of our lives. So I don't necessarily, think that it's super urgent, like temporally, but I could be wrong.
You gotta stay on the map, better guy. That's right.
He's time traveling. He's just flying from one part. He flies.
Stay on the map.
He's like, what's up here?
Going cross country.
Taking a visit to Vancouver. Oh, he's off grid.
That's the part where some of the urgency is an aspect, I think, where whistling past the graveyard is. As Grimgaz likes to play that clip with me, where like I don't know what the heck the next 5 years are gonna look like, Like I think the economy might go to shit. There might be a freaking nuclear war, or some solar flare, another pandemic and stuff. It's like we have to be in touch with the times, but so many people like to just not to accuse you or Kim about this too.
You guys connecting with your neighbors right here, I think, is part of it. Like, and you mentioned Jason, like connecting in with community and embedding himself in community, like learning how to do that, developing that skill.
Yeah.
If or when the shit goes down, the shit hits the fan, having the skill to just kind of embed yourself with a community is going to be important. Obviously, like, location would be nice. It'd be nice to know where to be, but so like where I'm at, I've got fish, I've got deer, I've got wildlife, I've got these kind of older wise people with guns.
Yeah.
You know, it's
This is not a bad spot.
it's not a bad spot
Yeah,
compared to where I was in Huntsville.
Yeah. One of the only main factors I've considered when it comes to picking a spot is like, one, I wouldn't want it to be too urban or like too populated, and then another one is, I don't know.
If it's urban, you need to be able to have a go bag.
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah,
be able
that
to
was
get out.
Jason is really like so on top of it. Like he not only does he have his spot in Frederick, Maryland, which is pretty populated and stuff, but just outside of the city, one of his friends lives on like a ranch and he butchers meat for them there. And like he's like, that's my bug out plan.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go there. And then he also is trying to build a second home type of thing in Argentina. I'm pretty sure he said, or Chile. Yeah. And so that's kind of interesting. Because he thinks America's about to go shit. And yeah. The other thing is like weather. You know, I've been learning some stuff about possible futures in that regard. I'm no climatologist or anything, but like the possibility of a large solar flare, which does stuff to the crust, like with earthquakes and volcanoes, and that could even, like a large earthquake could create really big waves, like really big supposedly. I don't know if this is true or not. Some people would suggest that literally the whole eastern half of the United States basically would just be like underwater for like a period of time, like maybe even just like a week or something. Pretty crazy to think about. You know, I don't know if that's true, but that's one of the things that I've kind of floated in my head a little bit with regard to location. Like, it'd be cool to be somewhere more high elevation. But yeah, I don't know, of course. But yeah, something like this where you're, you know, where there's animals that you could hunt if need be, and like, you know, there's neighbors who are more closely knit. You know, you don't have people like fighting for food and stuff, probably, you know. Yeah, I don't know, I think it might be wise, you know, that we consider these possibilities and such. As difficult as it is to think about, you know, like another pandemic, nobody wants to think about that, you know? But,
Well, almost everybody, like, during it, or not everyone, of course,
Yeah.
but many people, like myself, were, like, freaking out.
yeah. And also, a lot of people had an impulse to be more prepared, to like
Get
do something.
chickens.
Yeah, but then it plays out in like, oh, we got chickens, or we turned our closet. And this is what my parents said. They turned the closet in the basement. They put food in it. And they're like, we have a bunker now. I'm like, this is not a bunker. This does not count as a bunker.
Yeah. I actually got into looking at bunkers in the last week. Atlas Bunkers, they've got a YouTube channel. Because I was thinking, you know, we were looking at some land. And I was thinking, I've been talking up tiny homes. I'm like, what if you just start with an underground bunker? It's good on energy. It doesn't get too hot, doesn't get too cold. And instead of trailer homes, like all the people with trailer homes, it's like, what if they're in the ground?
Yeah.
You know, but
I would probably rather do that than a trailer home.
But even if you like, you could have it really nice above ground, and it would, to me, it'd just be a place to sleep, basically.
Yeah. Or like a cave situation where like half of it is in a cave or something.
Yeah, I mean, well, the bunker is a homemade cave, but yeah, if you have a cave.
Yeah.
But yeah, bunkers could be on some property wherever you're at.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I just call them underground efficient bedrooms. And then what you do is you live above ground and you sleep below ground.
Mm-hmm.
You can have like kind of your outdoor kitchen and whatnot, a place to eat out, you know, kind of on the outside. Yeah. The one I was looking at, said it would last. You could keep X people for 30 days, right? That's the one I was looking. It was a $80,000 bunker that, and it had 8 bunk beds and a queen bed.
8 bunker beds?
It was basically, but yeah, they had the one I was looking at. 80,000. Cool. It was in 2013. It was 80,000. I don't know what it is today.
I do not have that type of money, but that would be cool.
Well, there's a lot of people who
dig a hole.
Well, I mean, they've got a $20,000 version and they've got the $5,000 version. It's like they've got, you know, it's like how nice do you want your hole? How nice do you want your cave?
Someone's cooking bacon. That smells good.
Smelling it, yeah. The drum major's kind of learning as well. Like, how to do the movements, that emphasis and whatnot. That's and hopefully the drum major is being helpful. Like I think, and like, and even in the symphonic bands, like sometimes you have a kind of a pointing at the horns, and like you kind of know
I've made
what
videos of that too with conductors and stuff.
Yeah, if you know, like, and that way, if you all of a sudden someone gets lost, like I think I probably got lost a few times.
It's interesting how conductor is also like conducting energy, like conducting current. You know, conductor. Yes, it's very curious. The word emphasis, when you said that, really rings my mind because I think that's so deep. Like the stop before this, we were with Keelan, who is the guy who I've talked with most of the Formscapes channel, and he has a lot of great things to say, I think, and part of it is about like musical, like, you know, we've talked about patterns, and in TLC we like to talk about patterns being a very core concept, but you can also use like music as, you know, like music is patterning, kind of, you know, and so this idea that everything is music, that we participate in the divine symphony, and we're supposed to play our music, you know, and such that we can, and that is what most allows us to work together or something. But
I could give you an easy song I learned in a dream the other day. It just, the words are, oh yeah, Yahweh. That's all it is. And then
that's funny, when we went to Protestant church with Jordan Hall, one of the songs was saying that on repeat.
That's what I'd say, that when I had that dream, it was the person who led it and taught it to me was Jordan Peterson. I started getting a little chill bumps, but it was pretty powerful. Like it was a lot of people. It started off him leading it, and then everyone joining in, and it's just, and then I was in it too. It was good.
Cool.
Easy one to remember.
One of my favorite clips on my channel is of PBK reading the music of the Ainur, which is Tolkien's creation myth for the Lord of the Rings universe, basically. It's so dope. It's so cool.
There was Eru, the One, who in Arda is called a Luvatar, and he made first the Ainur, the Holy Ones, that they were the offspring of his thought, that they were with him before aught else was made. And he spoke to them, propounding to them themes of music, and they sang before him, and he was glad. For a long time they sang, only each one alone, but a few together, while the rest hearkened. For each comprehended only that part of the mind of Iluvatar from which he came, and in the understanding of their brethren they grew but slowly. Yet even as they listened, they came to deeper understanding and increased in unison and harmony. And it came to pass that Iluvatar called together all the Ainur, and declared to them a mighty theme, unfolding to them things greater and more wonderful than he had yet revealed. And the glory of his beginning and the splendor of its end amazed the Ainur, so that they bowed before Iluvatar and were silent. Then Iluvatar said to them, of the theme that I have declared to you, I will now that ye make in harmony together a great music, and since I have kindled you with the flame imperishable, ye shall show forth your powers in adorning this theme, each with his own thoughts and devices, if he will. But I will sit and hearken, and be glad that through you great beauty has been wakened into song. So you see, Iluvatar starts singing, creates the Ainur, and creates the Ainur so that they can take the song and continue to develop the song. And so in that way, in a sense, glory is multiplied and strengthened and greatened. The voice of the Ainur, like unto harps and lutes and pipes and trumpets and viols and organs and the like, unto countless choirs singing with words, began to fashion the theme of Iluvatar to great music, and a sound arose of endless interchanging melodies woven into harmony that passed beyond hearing into the depths and into the heights, and the places of the dwelling of Iluvatar were filled to overflowing, and the music and the echo of the music went out into the void, and it was not void. Never since have the Ainur made any music like this music, though it has been said that the great still shall be made before Iluvatar by the choirs of the Ainur and the children of Iluvatar after the end of days. Then the themes of Iluvatar shall be played aright and take being in the moment of their utterance, for all shall then understand fully his intent in their part, and each shall know the comprehension of each, and Iluvatar shall give to their thought the secret fire, being well pleased. But now Iluvatar sat and hearkened, and for a great while it seemed good to him, for in the music there were no flaws. But as the theme progressed, it came into the heart of Melchior to interweave matters of his own imagining that were not in accord with the theme of Iluvatar. For he sought therein to increase the power and the glory of the parts assigned to himself. To Melchior, along with Ainur, had been given the greatest of gifts of power and knowledge, and he had a share in all the gifts of his brethren. He had gone often alone into the void, seeking the imperishable flame. For desire grew hot within him to bring into being things of his own. And it seemed to him that Iluvatar took no thought for the void, and he was impatient of its emptiness. Yet he found not the fire, for it is with Iluvatar. But being alone, he had begun to conceive thoughts of his own, unlike those of his brethren. Some of these thoughts he now wove into his music, and straightway discord arose about him. And many that sang nigh him grew despondent, and their thought was disturbed, and their music faltered. But some began to attune the music to his, rather than to the thought which they had at first. This, you can see their fall in terms of the music now. The discord of Melchior spread even wider, and the melodies, which had been heard before, foundered in a sea of turbulent sound. But Iluvatar sat and hearkened unto it. Seemed that about his throne there was a raging storm, as of dark waters that made war one upon another, in an endless wrath that would not be assuaged. Then Iluvatar rose, and the Ainur perceived that he smiled, and he lifted up his left hand. And a new theme began amid the storm, like and yet unlike the former theme, and it gathered power and had new beauty. But the discord of Melchior rose in uproar and contended with it. And again there was war of sound more violent than before, until many of the Ainur were dismayed and sang no longer, and Melchior had the mastery. Then again Iluvatar rose, and the Ainur perceived that his countenance was stern. And he lifted up his right hand, and behold, a third theme grew amid the confusion, and it was unlike the others. For it seemed at first soft and sweet, a mere rippling of gentle sounds in delicate melodies, but it could not be quenched. And it took to itself power and profundity. And it seemed at last that there were two musics progressing at one time before the seat of Iluvatar, and they were utterly at variance. The one was deep and wide and beautiful, but slow and blended with immeasurable sorrow, from which its beauty chiefly came. You can think of C.S. Lewis and his Sensuch. The other had now achieved a unity of its own, but it was loud and vain and endlessly repeated, and it had little harmony, but rather a clamorous unison as of many trumpets braying upon a few notes. And it essayed to drown the other music by the violence of its voice. But it seemed that its most triumphant notes were taken from the other and woven into its own solemn pattern. In the midst of this strife, whereat the halls of Iluvatar shook, and a tremor ran out into silence yet unmoved, Iluvatar rose a third time, and his face was terrible to behold. Then he raised up both hands, and in one chord, deeper than the abyss, higher than the firmament, piercing as the light of the eye of Iluvatar, the music ceased. Then Iluvatar spoke, and he said, Mighty are the Ainur, and the mightiest among them is Melchior. But that he may know, and all the Ainur, that I am Iluvatar. Those things that ye have sung, I will show them forth, that ye may see what ye have done. And thou, Melchior, shall see that no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me. nor can any alter the music in my despite. For he had attempteth, this shall prove, but mine instrument in the devising of things more wonderful, which he himself hath not imagined.
Like this idea that I forget what the word is, but God basically is like the conductor, and then there's just one guy who deviates and decides to do his own thing from the music, and he's messing up everyone else, and then eventually gets reincorporated back in. And just how it's analogous to this musical thing of like even the people who think they're doing their own thing are ultimately working towards this grander culmination of God's vision. But then also, as we were talking about the conductor, there's also like a jazz band, where there isn't a conductor, and like it's kind of this thing where everyone's going, and then maybe there's something in the middle, where there are leaders, but also it's so cool. I love the musical analogy so much, and this idea that what humans like have the ability to do in particular, since we also have the ability to, like, the whole idea of the fall is that we can choose separately from God's will. It's like that I do my own will rather than God's will or something. But then how maybe that's all part of the plan and all good, because then eventually it gives us, not only can we choose to do other, but we can actively choose to like lean into God's will or something, or as it is personalized through us. So this idea that we can emphasize certain aspects of the divine music, as it's kind of like right now I can choose to emphasize this, or I could choose to emphasize, like this or something, and that's such a powerful thing. Like we can just, like, we participate in the ongoing creation of like if creation is like not just 6 days, maybe that's like the initial setup phase, or maybe the 6, it's like a fractal pattern or something, but this idea that creation is still going and that we're participating in the genesis of the cosmogenesis, and that we can emphasize things, and this is the creative agency which was given by the Christ event, kind of, is, I'm going a bit, it's like where, before that, everyone was just kind of in the group, but then Jesus is like, I am, like the divine I am, and that we are each that, this cosmic subjectivity, that I am an incarnation of the universe, like subjective, and that then we have that ability to add our own emphasis or something, does that make sense? It's kind of cool, right? Like this, I just love the musical analogy, and that and it fits with the whole thing about vibes. It's like you have your music, I have my music. How do we harmonize where we don't just, I don't just become more of your music and you don't just become more of mine.
Have you've heard? I remember it's like the way I play. If our instrument are these words in conversation or dialogos, the way I like to play is like to describe it in a song would be like the dueling banjos or something, and but
yeah, and those sometimes that's beautiful,
yeah,
like some dueling banjos, yeah,
right. But it's also devil's advocate, It's like I like the opponent process.
Yeah, and even like we were saying, even the devil or whatever, like the the opposer or something, like has a place, like God kind of created for, and I think maybe it's even so that God's own experience or something that he has, in a sense, an other, even though it's like a dream that God is having, which kind of he lets himself get lost, such that there is sometimes even thinking totally separate or opposing, but even that kind of contributes, we need people who are disagreeable and stuff as well, It's so cool.
Well, it's if it helps. Like I like it to be helpful.
Yeah.
I like it to be in service to God.
There was when you were saying banjo thing, my thought kept going, and I had something else, but I forgot it. Something about
the old banjo interrupted.
No, it's all good.
and then you gotta be able to pick it back up.
I have to be able to.
Well, that's the
I
thing.
have to be able to be present with you. I can't just go.
Well, I mean, you could go solo, right? Just do a solo for 30 minutes straight. I mean, that's what I do in my recordings, and then
But
I
then
end up just wiping it.
Then to toss it back, you'd be like,
Jazzy, yeah. Something of a playful.
yeah, that's the play, you know. And in Hinduism, that's what they call it. Like Leela is the divine play. It's like God getting lost in play.
Well,
it's so good.
There's things that can be abrasive and abrupt that, in my mind, like, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, if someone's doing the banjo, and all of a sudden I hop in with some trumpet like we heard earlier, it's like, what the hell did you just do? You know? This is not fitting together nicely.
Yeah. It's so cool how, like, I don't know, I just think it's such a deep and good, like, interpretive framework, like this kind of musical way of thinking about things. It's so good. And I remember what it was, like, the NPC thing, it fits with that too, is that people don't realize that they have this creative ability, you know, like, or this musical agency to affect the symphony. So like some people are just kind of going about the motions, you know, but then to realize and to be intentionally on that, I think it's like, how am I doing? And then two things. This is the thing about music, is that, like, the real musicality has dissonance in it as well. Like, it has, you know, gut-wrenching chords that then get resolved, you know. It's like there's this kind of elaboration and multiplicity, or differentiation, which adds to the richness, and that includes conflict and stuff like that. And that's what I like to think, where some people would say that all this created incarnate, like, the body is wretched and evil and stuff, and we just have to get back to heaven somewhere else. But I really think this is where it's at, you know. Like, also maybe like the after death, maybe it's just the flip side of the coin, but it's all part of the thing that right now we're participating, you know, in that the divine music, you know, and even the dissonance and stuff and the conflict, it all contributes to the beauty of where we are, what we're doing here, you know. And then the other thing with propriety, like, sometimes people may not see how that interruption, like Jesus flipping the money tables, like, is a radical interruption, but it's ultimately, there is a grander way in which it's appropriate, you know, and it's fitting in.
It's like a clashing cymbal.
Yeah.
Bam!
Yeah. But, like, you know, that, yeah, and that's the, like, turning point in the music or something, you know, and it fits perfectly ultimately, but they just kind of couldn't see it at the time. And this was a tie-in back, a show for my boy Rudolf Steiner with Eurythmy, where that word choice, like, it comes from, like, harmonious movement, or, like, with arrhythmia, like with a heart palpitation or something. It's arrhythmia, right? It's non-appropriate, or, like, you know, unfitting movements, right? But then eurythmia would be like like musicality as harmonious, or like, I'm also kind of tying it back to the I Ching, or in the I Ching it says a lot about propriety, and, like, I don't know, I think that's such a deep concept of, like, what is appropriate and, like, fitting in a musical sense, you know? So good. Like, what am I being called to emphasize in this moment, and then how can I do that artfully, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So good. Yeah, that's kind of the shell. That's kind of the pitch for this, all this crazy stuff. You know, and I think and the last thing would maybe be that musical, there's this fancy word, urphenomen. It's like, kind of like the archetypal perception, like how Peugeot and Peterson talk about how, like, there are these archetypes, so, like, and Peugeot talks about, like, with cups, like, all cups participate in cupness, the essence of cup can be seen in all cups, but then maybe, like, the Holy Grail is like the cup of cups or something like that. And then how in all instances, this is how we recognize emotions, like the emotion of, like, anger, or, like, you know, contentment or joy, like, these various things can be seen through your like, you kind of recognize them in a musical sense, if that makes sense. It's like that it's like a vibe. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, how everything is this flowing pattern, like, both being and becoming, like... So, and I think it connects with astrology, where it's like sometimes you could see somebody's being particularly Neptunian or Martian, and that's kind of how it works, is that, like, these higher levels, they're encoded in this, in, you know, where we're at. Where the, you know, like, and we see this with Christ too, it's like the logos sometimes shines through someone, you know, and it's like there, it's present, like, you don't have the totality of the logos, as it were, but it's like, it's, you know, that, the idea that, you know, it's not just a representation, but it's like a symbol, and that, you know, something about that is where, that's kind of the last piece of it, insofar as, like, this is how we are. It's like we recognize things in this patterned identification way, where, like, I can see right now you're thinking, you know, and like, you know, everything, just even right now I have a breeze, like, it's a nice temperature, and that's kind of part of the music that I just recognize. It's like this higher level seeing of a deeper pattern, and I just think that that's how it works with communication as well. And if we could really, like, get with that, figuring out this musical perception, how do I tune myself to be receptive to you, and also how do I emphasize things with creative, artistic goodness, like a propriety as well, and to develop that agency, to stop being an NPC and to wake, you know. Yeah, that's what I've been raving about this whole time, but I haven't had the words for it.
I think the NPCs, what I've noticed, this is my, there are people who have a skill at being able to, like, influence the NPCs. So NPCs are often going NPC for a long time. And so it's good to have good leaders. So, like, you can see it on soccer teams. You can see it, like, with coaches, and you can see it in businesses with managers. And so that's the only thing I would toss in there.
Yeah, no, I think
it's
that's
like, I don't think everybody has the, I don't think everyone can be the leader, and sometimes it's hard when you get incompetent people trying to do it, and it's been, and I told he's my director, like, that's his title, he's my director.
Interesting, you know, like, directing a movie, like, directing the symphony.
He's a director, and he's a good one, and he's the best one I've experienced. I've experienced the others. And I've been directed by people in a band and coaches and all kinds of stuff.
I think the distinction is, like, true authority versus kind of false authority, where, like, people who really are doing the thing and, like, are manifesting the logos, they kind of have that natural authority. But then there's people who have, like, they think, you know, that they're an authority, and maybe I probably fall into this sometimes. It's like thinking that I am the authority in the room on this topic or something, or like priests who think that they're the authority on what it means to be a true Christian or something. It's like, you know, with all these various dogmas and stuff, it's like,
but you end up with yes man, is what I heard my director say. He said, I feel like I'm just a yes man for the one above him, is what he's become recently. It's really gotten to him. And this pattern exists where if you have to report to someone that has some kind of, like, control over you, and like, you can have these layers and hierarchies such that the head of the body ends up expecting those around them to be a bunch of yes men, it will trickle throughout the entire body. And this is where it takes an asshole to put their foot down and say, and maybe do it with skill.
Yes, and also I think that the divine hierarchy, like the way that it's supposed to be, so, like, God gives freedom, you know, like, we were talking about this, Joe and I, recently, about, in the I Ching, there's line 7 is about the symbolism of an army, and how the general has to be in touch with the troops, and, like, I don't know, you have to extend autonomy down.
You have to delegate, like, appropriately.
And, like, this idea that we have free will, you know, it's that we...
You have to also encourage the ability to disagree.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, you got to be able to handle it when it happens, but you don't want everyone to just be a yes man. it's hard.
Yes, this is why, you know, it's one of the reasons you really stuck out to me when I first came upon your channel.
I stuck out to Kim too for this reason.
Yeah.
Like whenever I was like 16 years old when she met me, I was not a yes man.
And not just that, but also like the fact that the point about that there are good leaders and bad leaders, and like how the vision should extend all the way to our governments and our local officials and stuff, and like families, like, you know, that it's all supposed to participate in like the good or something, you know. And I think that's really important. A lot of people just say, oh, all this shit is forsaken and we should just focus on the mysticism, you know.
But how do you, if you find yourself within a hierarchy which is incompetent, like what's the right way of being? That's what I've been trying to learn for a long time and failing, and it's hard. I got to a point where I stopped trying to get the promotions and I started just like seeing how I can help the people who are just like kind of at the bottom of a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And then you end up forming relationships. You end up being there for them when someone dies. They're there for you when something tragedy happens. You end up developing relationships. Like, and part of becoming a Christian has been this kind of being willing to wash people's feet.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking as you were saying that.
I'm on the verge of tears.
Me too, man. It's beautiful. You know, it's very good stuff. Yeah, to bring it back down to, or, you know, like Jesus wasn't trying to be in charge of everyone. He was just doing the good.
He flipped some tables and washed feet.
Yeah.
If all you're doing is flipping tables, you're wrong. You gotta be washing some feet too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, you've got your symbolic imagery that is some kind of a compression of a lot of things, and has been, I think, seems it's been helpful for you. And I've said that you gotta be able to translate that for each person you meet. But part of that, it's kind of like that for every person. And when we communicate, every word we speak is we're attempting to somehow compress some idea, and that compression is lossy. And I say, like, whenever we're doing our instruments, and I'm trying to be a dueling banjo or a chime or whatever, you know, I'm working with some interpretation that's lossy. Like, I don't really know exactly what you're talking about, but I'm kind of, and so there's probably, you know, this is where it's like, let me try to repeat back to you what I think you heard, which would be like a dueling banjo, right? In a way. And so, yeah, there's a part of me that wants to try to correct or improve upon what you're saying. And then there's also a part of me that's learned is like, he might already know what he's talking about, and I'm just interpreting it and thinking that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, this kind of thing happens, I've noticed, in communication. Communication is hard.
It's hard. I think that's like the theme of this. Maybe we'll title this episode, you know, we probably won't use the whole time. Maybe we'll post like a 2-hour episode. That would be kind of cool. But probably not. But title it communication, you know. It's so deep. Like, if we could just communicate better, you know? Yeah. But I feel like we've been getting better.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. That's the thing, though, is that if I can have all the theory and all the jargon, but to put into practice in these instances and stuff, and we need like the you know, the testing grounds of places like TLC to like get better at that and stuff. You know, it's beautiful. I'm so glad we were able to make it here.
What's the aim
It's
of the
crazy.
communication then, right? So like when I joined TLC, my aim was to come in and start trying to direct everybody in how to create peace on earth, right? And it wasn't to get to know people. It wasn't to love people. I wasn't listening, right? And so the aim of the communication is important. The telos of the communication is important, which gets back into love God, love neighbor, love creation.
And also gets back to the thing where we protect ourselves, because like when we get scared, the aim can quickly become protect myself, you know? But I think it's very Christian to say, like,
think about that in terms of apocalypse, you know? And is there
exactly.
is it all, like, how much of it is love driven or fear driven, you know? So.
Yeah, and also that this idea that there's an unveiling is taking place, whether we like it or not. And it's like, it can be good. For some people, that is the revelation. It's like the veil's lifted and the truth is there, glory be to God. But for some people, it's like, no, you know. And,
Well, I mean, there's the apocalypse in terms of the unveiling, and then there's like this kind of the use of the word apocalypse that goes along with like polar shift, right?
yeah.
So one of them is like a
the
a
death
polar
of one
shift kind of
world.
apocalypse. Like that's the one where it's like people can be driven by fear to really like make sure you hoard your treasure for the event, right? That's kind of a fear-based approach that Jesus would not. I don't think Jesus would approve of.
That's one thing. That's a good, maybe like maybe we could say a little bit about that, because that's a thing I've been trying to.
And I don't have a lot of time. I don't know how long we can shift.
Yeah,
But
maybe like to kind of bring it.
And I'm willing to come back too. I need to escape and come back, but.
Cool. Yeah, as we all do sometimes, you know, escape the confining.
Yeah, I just have to do a transfer of vehicles.
I guess, yeah.
Transfer of transports.
Yeah, maybe we could think about it in the interim, and then we'll pick up when we get back about. That's really key distinction about if we're in a time of apocalypse, whether it be.
That weird. That's a confusing. That word is confused. Like the definition of it being an unveiling versus like a.
Yeah.
Are we being scared into like...
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. That like if we're in something like that, then like how do we make sure we're not coming from that place of fear and like, you know, I think that thing you said about building trust over time, but also just like even in the situation where maybe the truth that we have to that is being unveiled is that like there's a big storm coming, essentially, you know, like. Then like in that instance, how do we still operate from a place of the good rather than fear, you know?
So the apocalypse I'm planning on is an economic apocalypse shaped by artificial intelligence.
That's what
and
Jason was talking
the way
about.
I'm dealing with it is I'm trying to learn how to build the one that's going to do good instead of the one that's just like profit motive, trying to rush, scared to not lose out.
And you know, we use this phrase jokingly. We should probably get less flippant with it, the super cult. As a joke, you know, not just a cult, it's super cult. And
what's funny is like all religions might be super cults.
Yeah. Everything's a cult.
Yes, and but the point was to say it's like a super cult. It can't be like a fear response, you know. It'd have to be we're gonna do the good thing.
Even the word cult induces fear.
Yeah.
The problem is there are a lot of NPCs, and this thing where an NPC, I would say, is kind of like Pavlovian response to the bell, which causes the dog to salivate. You hear this, the chime, the bell, racism, communism, cult, you know, and then boom, fear. I think shark was one for me because I watched Jaws. You know, it's like we're kind of like Pavlov's dog, like all of us in some ways. And so I mean a good leader director is aware of that, and then will hopefully, you know, sound the chimes and stuff and make and emphasize and direct such that it's good, and then I mean it kind of, you have to know yourself.
Yeah, that's
are you willing to die on a cross for if that's what it takes? Are you willing to do that sacrifice? That they kind of would tell you if your heart's in the right spot.
Yeah,
that's my theory.
Beautiful.
That's my theory.
Yeah,
I'm just giving y'all theories.
we appreciate it.
I gave y'all some theories last night.
I dig it.
That's
and just the thought I was really trying to emphasize was the good community, and how, like, you know, to be compelled by the vision of a good functioning group, you know, like, you know, the true church or whatever, you know, like the true fellowship of the Spirit, like the true, I don't know, true might not be the best word, but, you know, like the real thing that was.
The word true can also be confusing too. So
yeah, like but, you know, to do the thing that Jesus recommended, you know, or like to do the body of Christ, to do the actual body of Christ thing, to be compelled by that vision of that possibility, you know, rather than just trying to escape like the dangers of the apocalypse, you know.
they will know, they will recognize you because you love each other. right? It's just like the trueness. It's not. I don't think it has to do too much with the dogmas and things like that.
Definitely.
He didn't say, "Here's the list.
Didn't
Memorize
write
it."
anything
And
down
you're
either.
in. You were gonna filter you based on your ability to memorize this list and say that you agree to it.
Yeah. It's cool that you've been able to find beauty at the megachurch. You know, that you can appreciate it your time there.
I have found a lot of beauty at the megachurch. It's like, it's the door.
That would be harder for me. Because
Yeah, I mean, there's a.
I get picky and such.
Well, I think it has to do with washing people's feet, and it has to do with eating, dining, communing with the prostitutes and the tax collectors.
Yeah, but it's funny because it's a church. You know, it's like it's supposed to.
I mean, but the thing is when Jesus was dining with the prostitutes and tax collectors, there's something churchy about it.
Yeah,
There's
they
something
were
about
like
the
the
body.
Pharisees. They were the authorities.
There's something important
Yeah.
happening there. Like, I think when the church is trying to like keep the prostitutes and tax collectors out, you know, that's a and it's like you don't necessarily want them up there like directing and emphasizing either. There's these layers of responsibility and trust, like, and I don't even know if they have to be so secret. It's like you say, like, this is how you get closer. Yeah, I wish it wasn't so hidden. Like the idea of like at the end of the call to prayer it says, "Accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior." I wish that was more. I wish actually it was more clear, more clarity, more precise. It's like this idea of being willing to get a beat down for God. If God, you know, if God thinks it's good for you to get beat down and killed and tortured, that you'd be willing to do that. Like, that's the seriousness I want people to have when you
I feel that.
do that. And trust that God's not going to do that unless it's good.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean everybody's going to get treated like Jesus. It just means that you're willing to be treated like Jesus. And then God will earn trust with you. But I do need to get the vehicle back to the fan.
Yeah, dude, give me a hug.
I'll be back. I'm going to come back up here. When you guys head out, and you'll be able to go through the gate. You can, I would say, don't have to leave the state park. I'll meet you. Yeah.
They're smart.
Hold them.
It's crazy.
Oh, there you go. They're so fast.
Do you remember the fly last night?
Yeah, we had a pretty funny video of a fly on the map. The map was on the screen. It was like going around the U.S. I feel like I'm doing drugs, spider drugs.
And then he convinced the fly to land on his finger so that he could take him outside, and it landed on his finger and then flew away.
Vertical dimension off the map.
Angels from above.